going into our fourth and final game of the night. It's going to be Napkins in Disguise taking on Infinite Odds. Studio, tell us about what we've seen thus far tonight. What can we expect from our last game?
Well, we've seen the fact that Coast is still amazing, looking like the strongest former LCS team. Like I'm saying former, but I really mean going relegations. We've seen the power coming out of sorry, I just got a funny message. Um, we've seen the power coming out from a lot of the rest of the challengers. Seeing GGLA is still quite relevant. Velocity trying to get their win, but not quite able to. And now Infinite Odds versus Napkins in Disguise. There's going to be a fun matchup just because Infinite Odds, I believe, they're using once again a new roster as they seem to be changing it up quite a bit. And Napkins in Disguise, they're an older, more consistent team. But recently there have been a lot of jokes being made at their expense, like whether they can muster, whether they have the actual I'd say like emotional strength to actually survive some of these matches. They really need to make sure that they're confident that going into the games, ready to play to their ultimate level. And if they ever fail, if they ever make a mistake, that it doesn't just crush them emotionally.
All right, so we're seeing and Napkins in Disguise, one of the more stable teams throughout the Challenger scene for so long, going up against a team, like we mentioned, Infinite Odds. They've been rolling out a very, very different rosters thus far throughout the Challenger League. Are 1-3. You could maybe say potentially because of that, because they haven't really had that stability to really work together here. But definitely some extremely talented players on the side of here. We saw Lotus Mendy was having some very, very strong games earlier. Body Drop is well known for being an extremely strong support, and Sicko Scott is quite the talented jungler as well. Gente, we all know him as a mid laner, as he was going in and some potential LCS prospect there. And then Kenny is a top laner who's kind of been around for a little while here. So these guys are all known players. People know what to expect out of these guys. But the question will have to be, what can we expect from them in the competitive scene when they need to gel together and work as one unit?
Sicko Scott used to be on Team Summon. He was actually at the LCS summer qualifiers. Unfortunately, Team Summon lost to Dignitas 3-1. He has a lot of potential, though. He's actually one of my favorite junglers to watch because he tends to be very aggressive, tends to work very well with one or two members on the team. And I want to see who he meshes with on the Infinite Odds lineup. Kenny, you mentioned it. He's also an old blood, old guard player. Same with Gente. And I want to see if the experience they have and some of the newer players on their team can really combine and effectively work with this meta. Inox actually looked at Nidalee for a segment, going for the Corki. Corki, of course, one of the best AD carries in the game. Nidalee, though, used to be his character of choice, but at the same time, they can always wait on that pick because it's probably not going to be chosen by the enemy team.
Exactly, yeah. And Corki is just such a high value pick right now. I mean, he's so incredibly strong out of the AD carry role. But it looks like Infinite Odds were expecting that Corki pick. They immediately locked in the Thresh, they locked in the Jarvan, they were ready for that one right out of the gate. Now it's going to be tossed back over to Napkins in Disguise to make their next round of picks. The bans this game were Elise, Zed, and Caitlyn banned out by Napkins in Disguise against Infinite Odds. Infinite Odds took Kassadin, Aatrox, and Lee Sin off the field.
Solid bans overall. Elise, Zed, just two dominant characters, and Caitlyn takes away a lot of safety. They want to make sure Lotus Mendy isn't on a comfortable character. That's a smart decision. You always want to try and make players feel uncomfortable on the enemy team because even if a matchup might work a little bit more in their favor, they're playing a different champion. If you can make someone play something they're not feeling strong at, or they're just not even that good at, preferably, then they'll make more mistakes. You can play out those mistakes. And mistakes are, I'd say, one of the more important factors. Like, you can play really well, but if you make one or two big mistakes versus someone who plays sloppier but makes just one small mistake, it really does end up building up faster. Like big mistakes matter a lot more than consistent play in this weird kind of way. Nabi Poohbear does lock in the Annie, though, most likely going to be for a support, though he has played Annie mid in the past.
Yeah, he is one of those few guys who was playing Annie mid, pretty consistently actually throughout the last several months. So we'll see if they decide to lock that in here. It's going to be Gente grabbing up Ahri. So Ahri has made it through thus far throughout the draft. Is not going to be picked up. Flappy Bearfish is showing us a Master Yi. I would be a little surprised by this. Even if it doesn't get locked in, I would assume that it's going to be a bit of a proxy pick here. Right now, Glebe Glabu is sitting pretty steadily on that Gragas right now. We need a top laner here for Inox. It's the last champion we need here. So Flappy Bearfish is taking a moment, doing a little trolling while his team makes up their mind. They decide what they actually want to pick up for him. They're showing us. Okay, I'm just gonna stop getting excited about anything that I see because I miss Skarner.
Oh no, Draven.
I miss Skarner. I love Skarner. But So the picks that we can see for sure, it's going to be Ezreal Thresh is going to be the bottom lane coming out here for infinite odds, and then they've got Ari in the mid lane. They've got the jungle Jarvan coming out, and they just need to pick up their top lane as well. So once again, we're seeing the red side picking their top laner last, looking for the counter pick. It's been pretty stable, quiet. There is the final lock in. Glebe Glarbu and Flappy Bearfish are going to lock in the Gragas for Nobi Pooh Bear, and Inox will indeed be playing his Nidalee this game.
I like the waiting on the Nidalee pick because essentially it's a lane that you don't think will be countered, but now they're going into it safely, and it does give a chance for a counter pick from Glebe Garbu, and they picked up Corki first. They do have Trinity being locked in. Trinity can work very effectively versus Nidalee because he does have comparable sustain, so we get to see Trinity versus Nidalee, not a common matchup, especially in today's meta where Trinity is a very niche pick, and Nidalee is one of those niches apparently. I do want to think that Jinte will be a successful Ari just because he was formerly a substitute for Coast and played for a lot of them, or for them quite a while during the LCS season. But I don't think that's how mid lane prowess works. I don't think he automatically gets those shifter skills naturally.
All right, so we're seeing the final lock-ins are made. We'll go through the two teams' lineups here very, very quickly. For the side of Napkins in Disguise, it's going to be Inox playing the Nidalee in the top lane. Scuba Chris got the jungle Vi. Nubby Pooh Bear playing that mid lane Gragas. Marksman will be Flappy Bearfish playing the Corki. And Glebe Glarbu's got that support Annie.
And for infinite odds, we got iKennyU up in the top lane. Sicko Scott roaming in the jungle as Jarvan. Jinte playing the mid lane Ari. And Lotus Mindy on the Marksman Ezreal, with Body Drop being the support Thresh.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break while we wait for the spectator delay to tick down. When we come back, we'll have our final game of the night, Napkins in Disguise taking on Infinite Odds. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the North American Challenger League, Week 2, Day number 1. This is going to be our final game of the night. I am Malphus X and being joined here by Studio. So hopping in to the last game. This is going to be Napkins in Disguise taking on Infinite Odds. The Summoners have picked up their starting items and are now heading out onto the Rift. Sounds like we got a little bit of a lag issue going on here. Uh-oh. Oh no. Not the lags again. Oh no. All right, so it seems like Studio's coming in and out. Hopefully someone will get in from the chat. Can people hear me? Or is everything just dead? Okay, so they can hear me. Okay, perfect. All right, I'm just going to continue on as if Studio isn't here. Hopefully we'll get the lag sorted out very, very quickly. So you see Napkins in Disguise. Both teams actually just moving aggressively through the jungle, getting their wards down into the red buff area. This has become a very, very commonplace invade. And because of that, we've actually seen some teams are kind of playing against it, where they just hide in a brush near the red buff area and then try to clean somebody up as they come in to place those wards down. But nothing like that going to happen this time around. Napkins in Disguise going to pill out from inside of the red side jungle. But it's looking like actually Cognitive were the red side last game around. It looks like Infinite Odds are not done with this one yet. They're going to step forward here, move back in towards the red buff area, and are hiding out. They might actually try to get a pick here. But red buff steals have become so common at this point, rather, that I don't think anyone's going to just blindly walk into that. Inox is going to head down to the bottom lane, as it looks like they're hoping to get a 2v1 setup. Lotus Mindy Body Drop going to help out Sicko Scott as they take down this red buff. They've cleaned this one up pretty quickly here. Looks like they'll be able to take that down. And hopefully we'll be able to get Studio back in here in a moment. But for the time being, it'll just be me until we get him back in here. So Sicko Scott will be able to get the red buff steal. Takes one ad to get him, oh, hang on. Studio wants me to add him back into the call. Here, so we'll just do... No. Okay, there we go. He's coming back in here. Inox going to be in a little bit of trouble here. The flame goes down. There's the exhaust. Sicko Scott comes in, picks up the first blood, flashes back out as the one buff gank in the bottom lane proves to be extremely potent. Body Drop, just absolutely crucial there with the fillet. Scaling that up to get the passive auto attack damage, in addition to just having that extra CC early on, and just so incredibly powerful there. Huge burst damage.
Definitely a lot of damage coming out. I'm assuming you're talking about Body Drop?
Yes! Yes. That'd be the one.
Yeah.
That Thresh, that level 1 play, man. So good.
Level 1 play, I mean, it's his damage, and very importantly, it's what let them kill Inox, because Inox would have survived had the hook had he had the hook, because he wouldn't have been so low from the auto attack rest. So very impressive coming out from the bottom lane, and Lily being that far behind, that's kind of scary, especially given the fact that she's so squishy. So now she's gonna have trouble CSing underneath the turret because she missed a lot of experience, and also if Body Drop, who's had a chance to get to level 2 now, lands a death sentence, that's probably another dead Inox.
Alright, so we see Nebby Pooh Bear just trying to get his CS up in the mid lane. It's always tough to be a melee champion versus a ranged champion, but he's doing a decent job of getting some harass down into Gente. Relatively close in the CS score as well. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, it's just been kind of a field day on the tower. Inox going to use that Javelin just to pick up a CS there. Looking like he wants to pick up an early chalice for himself to give him the mana regeneration he needs for the bonus sustain. Sicko Scott going to head up here to the top lane. And we didn't really talk too much about the fact that you picked up Tryndamere for his top lane this match. Talk to us about this Tryndamere pick.
And Tryndamere is a pick where you're based off farming essentially early on, then you become a really aggressive, very strong 1v1 character. So for example, Nilly has a lot of sustain, but like right now you can't do anything as you get harassed to below 1/3 HP. But eventually you want to be in a 1v1 split push situation where you never leave lane, but they have to send at least 2 people to deal with you, and you probably still won't die.
So you see,
Body drop!
Just
oh my
awesome.
God. That was amazing. That's a hard play to land. The play does have a little bit of a delay on it, so like I'm sorry, Malthus, but I gotta interrupt you. That was just that good of a play. That is so difficult to do.
But he can't do it twice. The cooldown isn't up. You see Junglers applying pressure in both lanes right now. Glebe Glarber is going to be the target here. Ikeneu comes through with the spinning slash, is able to pick that up. We see Flappy Bearfish rather wants to pick this up on a Sicko Scott, will be able to do so. The barrier comes out. Ikeneu wants to chase this down, doesn't have spinning slash back up. Flappy Bearfish going to have to burn both those summoners, but he comes away with looks like a blue buff under that UFO guy. Yes, he does have a fresh blue buff there.
Flappy Bearfish got the old school quirky skin, picks up a blue buff. Definitely a good trade though, because they get Tryndamere some farm to get him some experience, and they're really just trying to get themselves into a position where Inox will eventually go top lane and then die to Tryndamere, because he's not going to have the farm, he's not going to have the levels, though Tryndamere is having a tougher time actually picking up CS. The faster they transition Inox out of that bot lane, and Gente going for the flash charm, not able to land it unfortunately, but the faster they get Inox out of a 1v2 into a 1v1, then that's just going to be so much stronger for infinite odds. It's going to be a very passive game in terms of a 1v1 and like 2v2 aggressive laning, because both teams are going to try to get what they want. But it looks like it's going to be easier for Napkins and Disguise to try and maintain that 1v2.
So you see the javelins coming in from max range. They are landing onto Lotus Mendy here. So Inox is doing what he can to try to get a little bit of harass back down. You see a pause actually coming out here from the side of Infinite Odds. Gente apparently having some lag issues here. So he's going to take a quick powder. He's going to get his connection checked out. You're going to have a pit stop. Get the guy with the guys that can pull the tires off the cars in about 5 seconds flat. Well, I don't know what they're going to do to a computer. There's no tires.
They're actually just going to disassemble his chair and then just rebuild it.
Oh, okay.
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's a one piece though, so they're just going to smash it up. Now, that first blood onto Inox, unfortunately, doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's actually a big deal to kill one to Jarvan, but as for Inox being shut down, it hasn't been the biggest deal, because they sent Scuba Chris down there to make sure that the 2v2 had pushed out and gave a chance for Inox to be relevant in the game. So I do want to see it what the teams start going for. Shipra's going to be, or Gente. Damn, that was bad. Gente's going to be 6 soon, so you can start going for the roam pressure. At the same time, W Pooh Bear, he's almost level 6 himself, but he's been behind in farm, and he probably can't get a kill into Gente just because of the mobility of Ahri and the fact that he's just been having a rough time in lane, so he's going to be behind and have less damage.
So we take a look at the 2 AD carries right now. Flappy Bearfish having a much better time of it thus far. Lotus Mendy does have an assist, but it's a kill over for Flappy Bearfish, and he's got a little bit of a CS edge there as well. Both these AD carries look to be rushing a Trinity Force first, so the fact that there's a 350 gold gap between the two could become significant if Flappy Bearfish is able to pick up an item and force a fight just a little bit quicker than Infinite Odds are able to respond to.
I mean, they could time it in such a way that either Lotus Mendy will be back at base and they could go for an objective like Dragon, or, and this is a very hard to do timing attack, but if you can ever time it like this, it's incredibly effective. You pressure Lotus Mendy, so you make him fight while you have your hive advantage and he hasn't bought yet. That's very difficult to pull off though, so if they can pull it, if they can do that over the side of Napkins in Disguise, that would be a huge advantage. We have to see how that really transitions, because if either team lets the AD carries farm freely, I mean, they're giving up a lot of control. But that might be the case if the 1v2s maintain.
So we see down in the bottom lane, it's just Lotus Mindy just trying to continue farming up, getting himself as healthy as he can. And Inox at this point he's just using all the mana regeneration he's bought for himself to just toss in javelin after javelin after javelin. And because of that, he's at double the farm of Ikinu right now. Glebe Glarbu hiding out in the brush. That the Annie stun is so much a big part of what makes that support Annie so very, very powerful. But Sicko Scott hanging out in the area wants to try to turn that into a little bit of a 2v2 action.
He was not standing on a ward. He wants them to go forward, but they need to start a fight where Tryndamere and Jarvan initiate at the same time to maximize the damage coming out from Jarvan's armor reduction.
Scuba Chris going to get caught here, but Nubby Pooh Bear is on the other side. It was just a bait. Nubby Pooh Bear going to try to take this down. Isn't level 6 yet. The flash comes forward. Their body drop will not be able to land another one of those absolutely clutch plays. He will go down as Nubby Pooh Bear is the one to pick up that kill.
The ward coverage, unfortunately, is not covering quite enough space such that Nubby Pooh Bear could be stopped. Nubby Pooh Bear's got a lot of mobility, so the second he goes forward, the second you see him in range, if he's close enough, it won't matter. And that was the case right there. Nubby Pooh Bear just was close enough when he got spotted by the ward. They could not stop him. Ikinu going down low. They could try and pick up this kill, actually, do a lot of damage onto him. He's still not level 6, though, so he can't fight with the Tryndamere ultimate.
Yeah, and that's just the strength of that stun coming out from Andy once again. Yeah, it looked pretty grim for him for a moment there, but he did have the Q heal coming up. Gente is coming up, has the ultimate. They're going to try to choose the Glebe Glarbu as a target here. Glebe Glarbu doesn't have the stun back up yet. Gente going to use the last bit of the Spirit Rush. Will not be able to pick up the kill. And so just like that, with no summoner spells being used, no ultimates available, Flappy Bearfish and Glebe Glarbu both get out safely.
They more or less walked out of that fight. And there was the one stun coming out from Glebe Glarbu, but in the end, they just said, hey, we're going to dodge your skill shots and then just be perfectly A-okay. So very, very good play coming out from the top lane of Napkins in Disguise. They didn't have summoners to burn either, which honestly, I think they probably would have blown a flash just to be safe. But given the circumstances, it makes sense. But the fact that they didn't have to is really impressive and also shows that, you know what, a lot of time just got wasted. That's a good chance for Napkins in Disguise to take some more farm back on Nubby Pooh Bear and try to get him into a stronger position. He does have that kill lead. He actually has more gold now than Ari just because Gente hasn't secured a kill, and that roam gave it a chance for Nubby Pooh Bear to farm back up.
Alright, so throwing the barrel over the wall, Nubby Pooh Bear will reveal that they're going to try to take this one down. Gente walking over very, very carefully there. Gente, he's going to get slowed, he's going to get popped up. There's the Vi ultimate, Assault and Battery, and Scuba Chris is going to be the one to pick up that kill. Sicko Scott going to go ahead and use the smite down here. Lotus Mindy going to try to pick up the blue buff as the buff has been leashed so many times that it has no interest in dealing with anyone right now. It's just going to walk back out. Will finally fall. They give that blue buff over to Ezreal. We'll use his ultimate to try to clear out the wave there near the mid tower. Doesn't want to make sure that they lose any of that just yet. And so once again, Gente, more time that he's spending not farming, not growing, not being effective. At this point, he just has the double Doran's Ring and the Amp Tome, and he's back at base. Whereas you compare that to Gragas, Gragas has the exact same items, but he has an additional 1,400 gold in his pocket that he hasn't gone back to spend yet.
We're most likely going to see an early Athenes coming out of Gragas. This could also be an early large rod. You could be going for just a really high damage build, trying to say, hey, Ari, I'm going to kill you in lane. Despite your mobility, I just have to land the ultimate, and then the follow-up comes just from that naturally. Looks like he's going for the Athenes build, so going for the safer option, which definitely is the recommended idea. So all of a sudden, Gragas now, he won't run out of mana in lane, and he'll be able to farm really safely without much interaction from Gente. Gente can't really stop it. And this is going to be a big deal because now if Gente goes for a roam, it's not going to be hard for Nubby Pooh Bear to follow up.
So you see Scuba Chris coming in on a body drop. Body drop will take that javelin down. Scuba Chris doesn't have his ultimate back available yet. Inox wants to get in there, will be able to flash forward with the takedown, able to grab that very, very quickly. As you see, there's the potency of Inox's Nidalee. Despite being in the 2v1, despite being forced to javelin farm most of the game, we'll just have one little bit of help coming out from Scuba Chris, and they pick up a kill.
A lot of it is that Scuba Chris is doing well for himself and has a lot of damage. At the same time, it took one spear to all of a sudden put Body Drop into this dangerous position where he was probably going to die. Nubby Pooh Bear going for some pressure. Actually, could be going for the kill now.
Nubby Pooh Bear going to ultimate into the wall, throws down the Ignite. Scuba Chris wasn't in range to get in, doesn't even have the ultimate back up either, but Gente will use his Spirit Rush in response to that, as he wasn't sure exactly what else was coming. Glebe Glarbu gonna get the stun under the tower. Sicko Scott goes down to Tibbers before he has the opportunity to complete the Cataclysm. IKNU now running out, has the Tryndamere ultimate available. Another stun comes out from Glebe Glarbu. There's that Undying Rage coming out from IKNU as he gets back out. Flappy Bearfish gonna use the Valkyrie to get forward here. IKNU gonna use the heal, will not go down. There's a nice Dark Passage gonna try to get him back out here. Scuba Chris chasing all the way through to the second tower behind that one. Gente isn't gonna land anything here. Nubby Pooh Bear gets pulled back in by the charm, or excuse me, by the death sentence there. As they try to take that one back out, Vi getting some frequent flyer miles on that one, but will not be able to get a kill.
It's not often you get to see that, but I love seeing those long-range, definitely unintentional assault and batteries coming out from Vise. Good defensive play from body dropping that they keep Jintae alive at the same time. You know, the fight up top lane. Glebe Garbu just doing a bit too much damage. Running AP runes actually has 44 AP. So the fact that Glebe Garbu has AP means that if he ever gets the initiation off, his damage is going to be so much higher than you would normally expect out of a support Annie that's going pure tank or pure support. They're not respecting that over on the side of Infinite Odds, which is why Sicko Scott went down so quickly. As the spears, not quite enough. Spears, barrels, and booze. It was close, but it wasn't enough.
You know, given that situation, we actually haven't talked about that too much. There's a lot of potential objective steal here, but they're kind of on the wrong side of the map to really make it happen. I mean, Dragon is going to be their bread and butter for that. You know, they've got the Nidalee Spear, then Gragas can throw down his combo with the Q and the R, and if they time that correctly, that is so much burst damage. There's no way that a jungler can be asked to compete with that. But unfortunately, they couldn't quite make that one happen there. If they don't have the vision that they need, if they don't have the cooldowns that they need, if they don't have the coordination that they need, they're not going to be able to make those steals happen.
I mean, at this point, the Smite will actually do a little bit more damage than a Spear, and probably like 100 or 200 less than the Spear combined with the Barrel. So the potential to steal is there. At the same time, it does come down to coordination and the fact that the true damage isn't being reduced from the Smite. So maybe it's gonna be hard, but if they ever find themselves in that situation, it doesn't hurt them to go for those steals because the Spear and the Barrel are such long range. And actually, in the Barrel's case, you also get to run away. So they have a lot of potential for steals. But honestly, I think they have to make sure they're not finding themselves in positions where they have to steal. I think Gragas at this point, he can keep going for that pressure onto Ahri. Ahri's never going to want to be in lane if Spirit rushes down. So if he can constantly pressure her, constantly try to keep her from roaming, and burn the Spirit Rush in exchange for his ultimate, that's still good because it'll keep her from roaming, getting kills in other lanes, while they can just have a farm off mid, which Gragas is A-okay doing.
So, Glebe Garbu coming down to the bottom lane. He's got the Sightstone, he's got the brown boots, so he's just about got that core item build. I think with Annie, you can also add in a some boots of mobility and an oracle, because if you're not kind of sweeping around the map, then what are you doing? Scuba Chris going to go ahead and charge at the ball breaker, wants to make this happen. Glebe Garbu going to step forward here. There's a dark passage out from body drop just in case anything happens to Lotus Mindy. They're going to be able to get him out of that one just fine. Scuba Chris couldn't find the initiation he wanted, and now we find ourselves with this 1v1 scenario up in the top lane. It's the Chalice Seekers Arm Guard Inox's Nidalee up against Ikenyu's Tryndamere with the Bilgewater Cutlass.
However, Nidalee does have the extra assist, has a bit more farm. That could be the deal breaker that lets Ikenyu actually be forced to play passively. Notice that one auto attack got into Inox, so that was a crit, and of course he will have a high crit rate. But it's definitely very easy for Ikenyu just to deal a lot of damage very quickly with Inox not having a good response. If Inox ever gets a bit too brave, it's an easy kill.
Yeah, I mean, you see these crits are hitting the minions for about 350. Obviously, there's significantly more armor on Inox at this point, so Ikenyu won't be able to just chunk through his HP quite as quickly. But realistically, the biggest thing that Inox has going for him right now is how incredibly mobile he is. Ikenyu, sure, he can get the slowdown, he can come forward with Spinning Slash, but that will do nothing to keep him up with Inox as he dips into the brush and gets really, really high movement speed, or just continues to pounce again and again and again and again. There's the slow coming out from Inox, and yep, one pounce is able to close a lot of that gap. These crits, I mean, they're hitting for about 200 damage a pop, but Inox is going to hop back into human form, give himself a little bit of a heal, and start chugging away on that health potion.
The story for Inox is actually going to be mana usage. He has a Chalice, but still, Nidalee's heal does take quite a bit of mana. I believe it's 100 mana right now, goes all the way up to 140. And the problem is that Ikenyu can get about 2 to 3 attacks, maybe 4, with every slow he lands on the Inox. So if Inox ever gets a bit too brave, a bit too confident, it's not going to be hard for Ikenyu just to take him down low and force him to retreat, especially because mana is becoming a bigger and bigger issue.
Yeah, and you see, a couple of javelins coming out here from Inox every now and then, but the harass isn't really all that effective against Ikenyu. He's got the Bilgewater Cutlass, so the sustain from lifesteal is very high. In addition to that, he has his Q heal, and his Q is basically maxed out pretty much all the time at this point. So the heal on it is downright massive. Glebe Garbu has purchased quite the slew of pink wards, just using those all over the lane here to make sure that they have good control of the vision. As Inox just continue to try to farm up in the top lane, and in the mid lane, Nubby Pooh Bear and Scuba Chris trying to get a little push action happening. Scuba Chris not Scuba Chris, Glebe Garbu coming forward. They're going to get a massive initiation down, just like that. Flappy Bearfish responds with the Valkyrie, and they pick up a quick kill onto Lotus Mindy.
46 AP, and he's got an Ignite. You got to respect the Annie. She does so much damage, but you know what? They walk into the Tibbers and they're dying. That's what's going on for Napkins or for Infinite Odds right now.
Can you exhausted into the tower? Inox looks like he's almost certainly going to fall down. Indeed, he does. The flash forward. There's the missile barrage coming out. Flappy Bearfish picks up the kill under the thresh in max range. Body drop. Couldn't flay that one away as he gets his third death of the game.
The body drops plays were amazing earlier on, but you know, you're right. You can't play Assault and Battery. What's he going to do against it? That kill on the Lotus Mindy, though, opened up this turret. All of a sudden, a tier 2 being pressured, and Nubby Pooh Bear is able to successfully scare Jinte away. Jinte does have chase potential, but so does Nubby Pooh Bear when it comes to his escape. And they can try and stop this, but without Spirit Rush, Ari's not going to be able to catch up, and that was essentially a tier 2 and 2 kills at the cost of the top turret and Nidalee, because Nidalee needed backup.
And realistically, the only thing that kept Nubby Pooh Bear from just blowing Jinte up on that one was the fact that he didn't know who else was around. He didn't know if Jarvan was there, he didn't know if Ezra was there. I mean, you take a look at Jinte right now, he's sitting at he has 900 health now, he was significantly lower than that before. The barrel was up, the ultimate was up, the ignite was up, the body slam was up, and it was an isolated target as well. So Jinte almost assuredly would have gone down there.
This is definitely not a positive matchup anymore for Jinte. Jinte is forced to flash.
So much.
Not in range.
Oh, so close. Couldn't quite get in range for the ignite. That's exactly what I was talking about. He was an ignite away from being able to pick that one up. Scuba Chris thinking about going in on this one. Will be able to get it started up. Sicko Scott going to oblige him, but here comes Flappy Bearfish. Sicko Scott flashes away as the True Shot Barrage picks up the kill. Now Lotus Mindy wants to get away from this one. Flappy Bearfish going to last hit a creep to get a good phage proc going down here. Will not continue the chase. This is going to turn around and continue farming up.
They need that Annie damage. You need to have that Annie with that Tibbers first, apparently. As all of a sudden, IKENEU, now he's just pressuring more into the top lane. This is what he has to do. He has the Blade of the Rune King, so he actually is even more powerful versus Nidalee at this point. And he's just going to stay there. He's just going to make sure that if they do not stop him, Inox will be taking damage. Inox will be losing that tier 2 turret. And there's a big chance all of a sudden that his team will be able to take control of the game because of his pressure. So he is roaming from the top lane, going towards that jungle, going for that dragon pickup, it seems. Inox is following him, though, so this could be a 5v5, and when it comes to the 5v5, I definitely like Napkins in Disguise more, because they have a lot more AoE, they have reliable CC with Scuba Chris, and it's going to be hard to deal with.
Flappy Bearfish wants to stick around and continue poking, but he's very, very low at this point. The dragon will reset. Comes back out. Sicko Scott has returned from his sojourn over at the Summoner's Fountain. Scuba Chris stepping forward there. He's got the boots of mobility. He's extremely fast, so the initiation power is extremely high for him. Inox going to be able to clear out that ward. Continue to try to make things happen here. Sicko Scott is going to be the one running the front right now. The entirety of Napkins in Disguise backing away. They're being spotted out on this ward up in the brush. Right now, there's the pink ward coming down, so they will not recognize that they're getting spotted. It does not see. That pink ward is just on the other side of the bend in that brush. They will not be able to spot out that ward. Angles. They have no idea that every bit of their movement is being spotted out right now. They send Gragas over to get the mid lane pushing back. And at this point, I think they're content to just extend this for as long as they can. Inox has the Athene's Unholy Grail right now. He just wants to keep tossing in javelins. The Death Sentence does land on an Inox, but they don't get the initiation down. They're throwing out the barrel. They're trying to zone Sicko Scott away as they take this down. Blue side will be able to pick it up, so it's going to go over to Napkins in Disguise. Sicko Scott tries to get the initiation down, will immediately fall, locks him up in the Cataclysm for quite some time. That's almost going to take Jinte down. Well, that javelin, we see the flash forward coming out from Body Drop. Scuba Chris going to be one to go down as he uses the Assault and Battery. IKENEU coming out with his ultimate, going to try to get away from this one. Ari, will she fall down? No, Inox not on point with that javelin. And now IKENEU is going to try to find a safe spot in the jungle to pill out from. Jinte on the run. Inox wants to chase him down. Will be able to land the javelin. Nicely played there by Inox. Grabs that one up. It's going to end up going 3 for 1 plus the dragon in favor of Napkins in Disguise.
I mean, Napkins in Disguise, they applied that poke early on. They made sure the Gragas Spells and Nidalee Spirits were landing, hitting their targets. And so when they actually went for the dragon fight, when the fight broke out, all of a sudden, it was a half HP Sicko Scott trying to seal the dragon. It was, you know, Lotus Mindy. From one Gragas ultimate, he was already so low that he was at about 1/4 HP by the time he landed against the wall. And that was that fight, that was just the poke building up and just completely terrorizing the members of Infinite Odds. I gotta say, I love IKENEU. I love his bravery. He went in there, but he can't 1v4. At Tryndamere, he got kited out, couldn't go for a mass amount of kills, only picked up 1. And you know, the top laner they have, he is out of control. I don't know who's going to deal with Tryndamere at this point in the game. But the problem is, because of how he works, because he's not someone like Renekton or Shen that can just tank up and control the fight through that form of Snowball, he's just being kited around too much, and he's not going to be effective in team fights. At this point, if you're Infinite Odds, you stick Tryndamere up top line, you say, get the inhibitor, And if you do that, as Lotus Mindy trying to hide takes the spear to the face, if you can get the inhibitor or pressure the inhibitor turret, we can try and do stuff. But if he can't do that, like IKennyU, that's how he has to carry the game. If he doesn't get there, then his team will just fall further and further behind due to the poke.
Yeah, IKennyU is going to have to be responsible. Excuse me. He's going to have to be responsible for stretching out the map and just doing everything he can to keep Napkins in Disguise from actually being able to bring their full weight to bear on the tower. This is what he's trying to do right now. Is he's trying to apply enough pressure in that top lane to keep them from pushing down this middle inhibitor tower. The Ezreal ultimate already being used, as the entirety of Napkins Disguise have already rotated. Navi Pooh Bear will not be able to land that down. That Javelin landing in max range. Inox is so deadly with those. And he's going to be able to force Gente back onto the fountain. Lotus Mindy falling incredibly low as well. The Trendemir is going to be split pushing, but he can't out-split push the entirety of the side for Napkins in Disguise. They take down the creeps. They take down the inhibitor. Now, or the inhibitor tower, rather. They're going to move in onto the inhibitor. The inhibitor about to fall down. Sicko Scott trying to make something happen here. Going to get a nice initiation down. Uses the Cataclysm, then immediately cancels it out. We see Scuba Chris going to go back in onto Gente right now with the Assault and Battery. A nice death sentence going to land on a Navi Pooh Bear, but they can't follow it up. Scuba Chris going to be the first one to fall as IKennyU returns to the fight. Sicko Scott taken down incredibly low. Will fall down to the Javelin on the departure Javelin, I guess we'll call that one. Navi Pooh Bear gets exhausted up. Can he get away from this one? Lotus Mindy going to blink forward there with the Arcane Shift. Will fall down. Glebe Glarbu is going to pick up a double kill with the support. Annie, red buff down into Gente. Can he get the triple? The Timbers isn't auto-attacking, but it doesn't matter. Triple kill comes out anyway for Glebe Glarbu with the support. Annie. Body Drop's going to be the one to get the support shutdown. Navi Pooh Bear and Body Drop, the only two to survive this massacre.
Glebe Garbo just carrying Napkins in Disguise on his back. 4-2-6, the best score in the game. You gotta give him credit for all that cleanup, but really, I mean, the name of the game was that before the fight even started, we saw Gente almost go down. What hit him? A barrel and a spear. We didn't even see Gragas. We didn't even see Nidalee on screen when he took that damage. And that's what let them get that inhibitor, that high poke, that high constant damage. That was finally the hard initiate before the poke landed coming out from Infinite Odds, and they kind of won the fight. They fought them off, and the support got a bunch of kills, which is normally not that big a deal, except Glebe Garbu is honestly carrying with his support skills. And so is the rest of it. The rest of the team's helping out too, but man, triple kill on Annie. That's OP. But regardless, making it hard initiate a fight and do well, but you know, that required home guard boots, that required them to be at the inhibitor, which they already destroyed. And they don't get opportunities like that often. When they actually do get those opportunities, it means they've already lost their inhibitor, or at least their inhibitor turret. So it's a good pickup, but they already lost a lot of control with the inhibitor being down. That means Trendemir has to hang out bot lane now, and he's going to push much slower because of those super creeps. We're going to see the same thing happen. I'm going to go for that poke fight one more time, and if they can land that burst, if those creeps don't block spears, we're going to see members go down just out of range of anything.
As Ultimate coming across, trying to clear that out. The death sentence will not land as they just continue to chunk this down as best they can. Another spear comes out. Body Drop going to use the Dark Passage to get a little bit of shield. They're going to go ahead and concede this tower. They back away. Lotus Mindy taking a rocket. You know, there's just so much poke coming out from this side. They've got the Nidalee, they've got the Gragas, they've got the Corki, and whenever they're ready for the hard initiation, you know, they've got Scuba Chris to dive in with his ultimate, and if they get initiated upon, they've got Glebe Glarbu for the giant stun Tibbers to get the counter initiation down, or the disengage as the case may be. So this is, and you know, if they follow that up with the Gragas barrel as well, that's a lot of really hard disengage, and not to mention not a small amount of AoE burst damage.
Trendemir is taking the bottom inhibitor turret, so they might have stayed their welcome. They do send Inox down there, but Trendemir can still do very well versus Inox, so it's going to be a rough matchup. The exhaust is used by Inox, but frankly, KennyU's still going to get that turret. I mean, they spent too long. Yeah, what's Inox going to do? The spears don't do enough damage. They need higher sustained damage. They're finally sending members back, but, you know, Trendemir is already retreating. I guess, okay, that's an okay exchange. Napkins and this guys go for the trap. Trendemir on the retreat means that even if they don't catch someone,
oh, body drop. Oh, body drop. No.
They caught someone.
Stepped onto the bushwhack. Stepped onto the bushwhack, and the entire team came over the wall at once. And just.
They just them. IKennyU knows he has to stay bot, and he's actually going to take spears in the face now. Going forward towards Inox, but the Baron is already being attempted by Napkins in Disguise. Now he has to get the inhibitor because the members of his team are not really in position to stop that Baron. Inox down so low. One more auto attack after this one should be it. He's going for the... What? What? He goes for the Nexus time. Not able to pick it up though.
So we see the Baron will go over to the side of Napkins in Disguise. An immediate pause comes out right after as IKennyU chased him onto the fountain. and was able to get himself back out. That I don't even. Apparently, Sicko Scott is having some lag issues there. Kind of unfortunate, especially jungler being in the game is kind of important at the time when Baron is being taken. But there's some big calls coming out.
The fact that we could see the Baron Gold on screen definitely is unfortunate timing for that disconnect. At the same time, there's not much he really could have done. It was going to come down to this teal. Now, what's unfortunate is that Iconu did not get the inhibitor, and he can't get it right now because he'll die to the super creeps attacking him, and Inox, who has home guard boots, and have returned to beat him up. So they don't get the inhibitor. They lose the Baron. They lose body drop. They're not out of this yet. Infinite odds. They can still apply pressure to that bot turret, but all of a sudden Tryndamere is going to have much more trouble dueling, and it's going to be rough if the poke ever comes push to shove, because guess what? Now, the members before that had at least sustained a lot of damage have a lot more damage. Like Kenny Yu, he is in a dangerous position.
Scuba Chris going to try to track him down here. Uses the Vault Breaker. Will not get the pop-up there. Is he going to go for the ult? Yes, indeed he will. Inox going to land a nice max-range Javelin. Glebe Glarbrew trying to get in with those boots of mobility. Kenny Yu with a long-range spinning slash. Pulls himself out to safety. And just like that, I mean, he gets himself out, but they have nothing they can do to stop this dragon going down to the side of Napkins in disguise.
Kenny Yu just has to get himself into a position where he can dive the fountain again. That means he's pushing well, and that means they've got a chance to control the map again. This is going to really come down to Iconu and whether he can split push and out-duel Inox, which specifically with the Nexus and now the Zone is finished on Inox is going to be very, very difficult to do. It's going to be a tight match. This is not over. Infinite Odds still have a really good chance to come back. It's just they don't have a direct way to do so anymore. The bottom inhibitor has respawned. They're now both exposed for both sides. But this means that the easy lane for Iconu to push, which would be the bot lane, is now going to have the members of Ninjas in Disguise, or Napkins in Disguise, who are going to be just trying to pressure it because it is the open inhibitor. This would actually be a really good time for, God, I hate saying this, but Iconu should pick up oracles and start getting ready to try and backdoor the enemy team. Like that should be his plan. Like pick up the oracles, get ready for it, and just the second the push comes, the second he sees them trying to do something, pick up that bottom inhibitor.
Just look at the ward coverage. Look at the ward. I mean, almost every inch of the jungle is lapped up. Here's the death sentence coming down. Glebe Glarbrew going to get burst down before he gets any of his spells off. He gets the Timbers out, but that's it. Inox going to be the next one to fall down. An absolutely beautiful initiation coming out here from Infinite Odds. Scuba Chris trying to get away from this one. Lotus Mindy's going to be able to pick up that kill. So far, it's 2 for 3 throughout the fight, however. There's just so much damage on the side of Napkins in Disguise that even in that situation, they're going to have a hard time getting out of it. They go 2 for 3. They come out ahead, but Ninjas in Disguise, Napkins in Disguise, Studio, you did it to me. They're going to be able to take down the inhibitor anyway.
Both had the NI acronym, and really, like, I love that initiation. I love how quickly that fight started, and I love how quickly it ended. That was about 4 seconds for 4 people to die. And the reason for that is the burst damage coming out from both teams is so incredibly high, and nobody's that tanky. The tanky member for Napkins in Disguise is going to be Scuba Chris, and well, he got focused down so quickly. What they need to do is somehow kill the entire enemy team. It's weird to say that, but they have to be able to start a fight such that Gragas is not bursting down Jinte and Sicko Scott in the initiation. Iconu also made a pretty big mistake there. He ulted as soon as the fight started, which is understandable based off how much damage came out and how quickly it came out. But it meant that he couldn't stay towards the end to try and take down Flappy Bearfish. As now Ikonu's dueling Inox, but guess what? Inox has some friends.
He's got a lot of friends. There comes Scuba Chris. You see, he's going to try to get over. He's going to get stunned up by the Annie as Inox goes into the Zanya's Hourglass. Iconu will not be able to use the ultimate. It was not back off of cooldown, and they get a lovely 3v1 catch on the split pusher.
Fortunately, the Tryndamere is dead. The bot inhibitor is already gone. This means, guess what? The members of Napkins in Disguise are going to roam towards mid lane, try and pressure that. Tryndamere will be responding soon, but he's not that good in team fights, and they've already shown that they're going to have trouble fighting this Baron buff team. The Baron is going to fall off in a few seconds. The team should be stronger now, and I think they're ready for the sudden initiation.
See the ultimate coming through here from Ezreal, just trying to clear out as much of the creep wave as they can. They have to be so careful of the poke right now as Inox just tossing javelins through again and again. Glebe Glarbrew going to use the Timbers, just trying to get a couple of auto attacks down into the tower. So he gets a little bit of damage there. Body drop going to pull Jinte over to the other side of the map. Throws a ward down over the wall, hoping that they can deny vision. And Inox is just going to continue setting up the poke. Flappy Bearfish just throwing in rocket after rocket, body drop, throwing down the dark passage just to provide a shield to help try to weather some of the poke. Body drop looks like he wants to step forward here. Will not find an opportunity for a death sentence, and just like that, they bought enough time for IKenyu to get back up, get back into that bottom lane, and get back to split pushing.
They gotta keep sending Tryndamere bottom. They know Inox will have trouble versus him. Inox still would have died in a 1v1. I think really Inox will never be able to beat IKenyu in a 1v1 at this point, just because of how the characters are built. So send him back to the bot lane, let Tryndamere do Tryndamere's thing, and just hope he can do it. They just cannot group up versus his team. The pick potential from the spears and from the barrels are just too high. And we've seen that if anybody gets low, Scuba Chris has no qualms just going for the hard dive and the hard initiate. It's such a weird game because it really feels like most of these games have been pretty snowbally. Like they've been pretty big stomps. This one feels like if it was these other games with other compositions, one team would have already snowballed into victory. But because of the poke comp and how much trouble that they have dealing with IKenyu and the fact that, well, he has to carry with split pushing, it means that despite the 3,000 gold lead, this match is still incredibly even.
Alright, so we see Nebby Pooh Bear will be able to grab himself up a blue buff, heading back out. Gonna be trying to follow the rest of his side as they make something happen here. Glebe Globby roaming around with the Oracles. Thought that they maybe had an opportunity to make a catch happen, so he's going to leave that ward in the brush. He tries to close up with the rest of the side. Gente burns the charm. Death sentence not going to land. Hooks onto a creep instead. And that's going to be the signal for Flappy Bearfish to step forward and try to take this down. Sicko Scott going to go ahead and use the Cataclysm. Locks 3 up. Glebe Globby just going to initiate on him. He's going to use all the spells, and he's going to end up being the first one to fall down. Scuba Chris tries to get himself back out. He's going to end up going down. Double kill thus far for Lotus Mendy. Body drop will not be able to get that flame, and as the Valkyrie comes out, and IKenyu, he's already pushed down the inhibitor in the bottom lane. We need the X-Pekka cam. He's moving in onto the Nexus towers. Right now, the only thing Infinite Odds don't want is for anyone to be able to recall. Flappy Bearfish stepping forward here. The charm comes out from Gente. Going to try to lock up Flappy Bearfish in time. Flappy Bearfish picks up the double kill. Inox is going to make it back to base. Can IKenyu take this down in time? He's going to have to back away. He's going to take a spear, but he's already in the ultimate. Exhaust comes down. Inox going to try to chase this down. IKenyu no longer has the ultimate. Inox flashes forward there. Will be able to pick up the kill with a takedown. Flappy Bearfish takes down that inhibitor tower, and thus far, Napkins in Disguise are maintaining their control over the map.
I mean, you got to give credit. That was going to be the all-in for Infinite Odds. IKenyu popped his ultimate so quickly in that fight because he was tanking the turret to try and take it down even faster. So they take down the inhib. It's actually a better fight for Infinite Odds because all of a sudden, now that bot lane, they don't need to send Tryndamere there anymore. They can send him top lane. They can now try and apply pressure in other spots of the map, and their own inhibitor will be up soon. So a really weird play, but they went for the aggressive dive over on the side of Napkins in Disguise, and they went too far. They went too deep in, and the turret still took them out. Their team is just not very good at hard engaging because they do not have a tanky member besides Scuba Chris.
See another bearing being attempted here. Sicko Scott is not disconnected. Flashes forward there. Will not be able to get the steal down. It's just ice in the veins there for Scuba Chris. He lands the smite. Now they're going to try to continue chasing this down. There's no Sicko Scott. IKenyu has just respawned. Glebe Globby continue to roam around with the Oracles. Almost has the Shirelia's Reverie picked up as well. So there's your update on the support itemization over here on the side of Napkins in Disguise. For anybody who was wondering, Glebe Globby to help clean up that ward. And the rest of the team look like they want to move down towards the naked inhibitor in the bottom lane. They have only one inhibitor tower up, and that's in the mid lane. But it looks like the bottom lane is going to be the first call for them this one right now.
There's very little you can do on Infinite Odds to keep that inhibitor up. They're going to abandon it, as they should. I mean, leave no man behind unless it's an inhibitor, in which case that thing is screwed. They could try and rotate towards top lane, but Napkins in Disguise is probably going to retreat back to base, maybe steal any sort of jungle that's up, which is nothing at the moment, pick up Dragon and buy stuff. The reason is because they have the Baron buff, but they also want to go for another siege, and now that they took the bottom inhibitor one more time, they should have a bigger push advantage based off the size of the swamping creep wave heading towards that bot inhibitor right now. There are a lot of minions heading towards that inhibitor. That is quite a wave.
IKenyu is continuing to just work the split push right now. He's just continuing to get more and more items. If he finishes up that Infinity Edge, he's going to be absolutely terrifying. Although he might go even just for a more heavy raw AD build because he recognizes that the most important thing he can do right now is hit towers hard. So he might even just skip the Infinity Edge, say, you know what, I can't crit towers. I don't really need that. Or he might say, you know what, I still have to kill Inox at some point. He's the guy who's consistently coming back, consistently being the one to stop me, and he's had some good success with it thus far.
You got choices. I don't know which choice to go for, though. You're right about that. The critical strike Infinity Edge and the damage would be immense. I think that's what he has to go for just to duel Inox, but It doesn't make him push faster. It doesn't make him push as fast as a Bloodthirster would. Regardless, he's not up in the top lane, though. I think he realized that he's kind of in danger at this point, just because it's going to be hard to escape by, and they don't see the members of Napkins in Disguise. Actually, Infinite Odds has to wait for Napkins in Disguise to reveal themselves before Tryndamere can split push. Because if they don't, if Tryndamere goes forward before he sees them, they'll just gank him. And he is catchable, or worse, they can blow his ultimate, blow his ghost, and make it so that if he does go for the push, he can't actually survive the engages.
Ooh, Fnatic Brush coming out here. Scuba Chris is going to be the one to check in. He goes down almost instantly. Lotus Mindy popped a Red Elixir right before he came into that and was able to pick that kill up very, very quickly. Gente even popped the ultimate. They wanted to make sure they did everything possible to grab that pick and to keep themselves alive in this game.
That's huge. That's the kind of ridiculous play you need to make if you're behind. If you think you cannot win a game through straight up fights, if you cannot group up, and in this case cannot even split push, then do something ridiculous. They get the hook though. This could be huge.
Flappy Bearfish is able to flash out over the flame. If he just gone straight for the Valkyrie, it would have been canceled. Body drop had his number there, but Flappy Bearfish with the summoner advantage is going to be able to get himself out of this one. So they drop Sicko Scott, and at this point, neither jungler is on the field. Napkins in Disguise feeling confident as they storm down the mid lane.
It looked like he was heading towards the top line, but he's actually going to roam back towards, or not roam, but go back to base, by the back button. He's showing up in the fight. They could go for a 4v4, but there was no way the 3v4 was going to be held, especially with the Poke champion still being alive for the members of Napkins in Disguise. Flappy Bearfish with that Triforce is going to get 1 or 2 auto attacks after casting a spell to really chunk down the turret. One auto attack should do it. All inhibitors are now naked. All inhibitors are now exposed.
Can they take this one down? They step forward here. Flappy Bearfish trying to take it down. His mocking shout will reduce the 80 to nothing. Nubby Pooh Bear is going to be the one to get caught out. Uses the explosive cast as the entire team bunched up on top of him. Inox is going to be the one to take down Body Drop. We see IKennyU is going to get that kill onto Nubby Pooh Bear. Flappy Bearfish is the target right now. Lotus Mindy picks him up before the assault and battery comes out. Inox, however, lands the javelin. Scuba Chris comes back over the wall. Sicko Scott comes out of the base with a fresh set of home guard boots, but that's not going to be enough. He's the only person alive right now. It's him versus the world. There are no carries up right now for the side of Napkins in Disguise, but they have absolutely everybody else, and they have everybody in good health right now. Inox just going to move in. They're going to move to take down the top inhibitor tower, and arguably they may need to base relatively soon here, as they don't have the most damage right now. Inox is going to do a lot of damage, though, as he picks up the, he's got the Rabadon's Death Cap, he's got the Zion's Hourglass, and he has the attack speed boost he can give himself right now. So they do get a Nexus tower, but there's probably what looked to be about 7,000 super creeps coming down into the bottom lane that are just about to hit the inhibitor right now. It looks like there's only actually 3 super creeps and then a massive, massive contingent of ranged minions. So someone's going to need to get to that pretty quickly or this inhibitor is going to fall.
Nubby up in 3 seconds. Taking a look at the inhibitor right now, down to 1,500, down to 1,000. I think it's gone. Yeah, there's
That's gone.
Oh, maybe the ultimate. Is it enough? No, the ranged creeps do take it. However, that's a fine trade. 1 inhibitor for 3 inhibitors. I'll take it. The Nexus now only has 1 turret over on the side of Infinite Odds. And guess what that means? Guess what 1 Nexus turret means? It doesn't happen often. Normally when a Nexus turret gets taken, the game ends right after. But this means, especially with the fact that they have 3 inhibitors down, that they cannot leave their base for any reason whatsoever at this point. They have about 30 seconds right now where they can start doing stuff where the creep waves become a major threat. But with only 1 Nexus turret alive, and especially with the 3 inhibitors down, the super minions will win the game in an incredibly short amount of time. This is because they're missing half the damage they would normally have to take out those creeps. So they're essentially stuck to the base now, which for the poke comp is amazing, because now they can wait for Baron, they can wait for Dragon, they can wait for blue buffs, red buffs, items, they can do whatever they want for the next 5 minutes. And if at any point Infinite Odds leaves their base, they will probably lose the game within a minute.
So Scuba Chris going back through the wall right now. Obviously, with all 3 inhibitors down, there are 2 super creeps spawning with each wave. So they have 6 super creeps coming out here with every single wave just marching in towards the base. And that's so much raw HP to actually move through. And then let alone the fact that there's also, the entire enemy team who want to take down your Nexus as quickly as they possibly can. So this is going to be a very, very difficult task ahead of them. Napkins in Disguise, they don't need to rush this at all. They know that they can take their time, they can wait patiently, they can just wait for the super creeps to push in, let IKennyU be pulled over to the side. One of the inhibitors has respawned at this point, so they're not going to be getting that double super creep spawn just yet. They need to take that back down. They only got 1 wave of the double creeps coming out. And it's going to be a very, very difficult fight. Scuba Chris is going to get hit by the Death Sentence. Gente coming in, thinking about starting it up. The Gente is going to try to get himself back out, and Scuba Chris goes for the counter initiation with the assault and battery. Body drop, uses the box over to the side, not really going to get a whole lot done with that one. IKennyU stepping forward, Lotus Mini going to pick up the kill onto Scuba Chris. Scuba Chris going to be the first one to fall after Gente. That Javelin's not going to land. They chase them back onto the Nexus, onto the Fountain. We see Sicko Scott comes back out as the first Nexus tower does fall, or the second one, first one of this fight, as the other one's already gone. Obviously, Body Drop pulls himself into the fight, flashes back out. Lotus Mindy going to try to get some work done on the other side of the fight. He will fall down. It's going to be Flappy Bearfish rather picking that kill up, and Napkins in the skies with the help of the Super Creeps take down the Nexus. They're going to grab this win.
I mean, even if they'd won the fight, there were still 10 Super Creeps and about 20 range minions in the area ready to take down that Nexus. Regardless, though, Napkins in disguise, they got an early advantage that game, had some close calls with ICANNEU split pushing, but still their poke comp remained supreme as the spears, the barrels, the rockets, they all landed beautifully.